I'm Nina Lenton. Welcome to Creative Conversations, where I ask my guests, what does the word creativity mean to you? So I'm here today with Abi Moore, who is a brand photographer and visibility coach. Hi, Abi.
Hello.
Welcome. Can you just give us a brief overview of what you do before we start talking about creativity?
Of course. So I've been a photographer for about 15 years, and I noticed a transformation in my business when I started to put my face out there online. And this is effectively what I help my clients do. So I work mostly with small businesses and self-employed people to put themselves out there. And I know that a lot of people find that daunting. People don't feel comfortable in front of the camera. They feel like they got into their business because they love what they do, not because they want to be the face of it. But being the face of it and putting your face out there is what helps you attract clients. So that is essentially what I do, is I help my clients show up and shine to be the face of their business to attract their dream clients.
Excellent. Thank you for that summary. I'm sure we'll get into some of those topics as we're talking. So obviously this podcast is all about creativity, different kinds of creativity. What does creativity mean to you?
I find it, I guess, a bit tricky in some ways. I feel like I'm a very creative person, and I love being creative. But when you start to do it as your job, that's where it can start to get a bit tricky, because I'm sort of essentially being creative all day. And some of the things, so photography used to be a hobby, now feels like work. So I don't necessarily kind of pursue it as much as I should in my sort of for joy rather than for work. But I guess essentially what creativity means to me is kind of ideas, coming up with stuff that is different, that is going to please people. So art in some ways, but kind of I sort of use it in the wide term of the arts rather than sort of specifically to art. But yeah, creative ideas and putting ideas together and putting them out there.
Yeah. So I guess you get more scope for putting ideas out there with the combination of things that you're now doing.
Yes, absolutely. So photography obviously is a very creative medium, and it's very visual. I guess for me, creativity feels quite visual because of the way I work. And I can, from the minute I speak to someone, I can start to see things in my head about how they'll tell me about their business, and I can suddenly see like an image that we would create for them, or a video we'd put together, or just ways that they could put themselves out there. And that's what I think, whereas creativity to me always feels like it has like a life of its own. So I'm not necessarily in control of it. I have these conversations and then stuff's just appearing, and then it's like, oh, right, okay, this is what we're going to do. But then communicating that to someone is quite hard, like your vision and what you see, until they get the final result and they're like, oh, yes, this is it. But there's a bit of a gap where they have to sort of trust you along the way to kind of make that vision a reality and hopefully kind of meet what they were expecting. So. Yeah.
That's quite interesting that you talk about ideas having a life of their own. I don't know whether you've read the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yeah,
where she talks about ideas and the fact that and ideas going to other people if you don't use them.
Absolutely, yeah, and then you don't have to pursue every single one either. So they're sort of there, but yeah, they're there when you're ready for them, I guess. So
yeah. So interestingly, I've done a few of these conversations now, and a couple of the people I've spoken to who do things other than photography have said that actually one of the ways they gather their inspiration for what they do is by taking photographs. How do you gather your inspiration if your means of kind of doing something is photography?
Yeah, so I'm very much inspired. I mean, in terms of like photography in general, I would say the two things that inspire me most are light and colour. So photography is all about light, essentially. So the roots of the word, it means drawing with light. And as a photographer, the first thing we're taught and the first thing we're looking for in anything we do is the lighting, and how a scene is lit. But you can be very creative with light. And I also find colour very inspirational. So for me, the way colours come together, one of the ways I feel inspiration coming to me is through watching films. So I love films, cinema, and I can sit watching a film and I'll sometimes even like tune out from a story and forget what they're saying and what's happening, because I can see there's a shot with this light coming through the window and the tones they're using it, and I'm just like, oh, that would be like a beautiful photo, and they kind of come to me like this. So the inspiration is still quite visual. I'm not very good at capturing those things. They kind of all just like filter into my head and then they're there. And then some I forget about and some I come back to later. But yeah, it's still very visually stimulated in that way. And it can just be, sometimes I'll like look out the window, like this time of year particularly, like, you know, there's around sunset, that golden light as it comes through, and on the trees, I can literally, I've not got a very inspiring view here from my office. I've got petrol station, but beyond the petrol station there are some big massive oak trees, and I look out at that time of day and the light coming across, just the colour of it and the way it sort of shapes the branches of the trees, just like I'm like, oh, and I just feel the need to sort of create it. It sort of very much inspires me.
So you're talking about where you get your inspiration from. What sort of preparation do you do with clients before you work with them on a photography shoot?
So we will have, once they're booked on and signed up with me, we will have a planning call. That's my first step. So I have a questionnaire that I send to them, and the questionnaire helps me understand their brand. So I will ask them things like their values and their visual branding, so what colours their brand is, who their clients are, because if I'm creating images for mums of babies, is going to be quite different to if I'm creating images that need to appeal to elderly men, for example. What appeals to different people visually is going to be quite different. So knowing a lot of those things around their business really helps me understand kind of what we're trying to create, because alongside the creativity there is also the practical side of what I do, is very much about helping people sell their business and market their business. So I need to be giving them things that are going to work. Once they fill that questionnaire, we have the planning call, and we'll really kind of deep dive into what they actually do. And for me, photography, I mean, it's an old saying, but a picture paints 1,000 words, and that is what it is for me. It's telling their story visually. So I can almost, like I say, I start to see in my mind, like, this is what they do, these are the services they offer, and I will start to get these visions of like, this is what it's going to look like at the end of the day. I then take that away afterwards, and I always put a mood board together for them, because this is the bit that I find hard. Like I say, it's that trust, where they have to trust that you're going to create something that's going to work for them. And it's very hard for you to see what I see in my mind, even if I describe it, for you to then visualize the same thing. So by putting a mood board together, which could be images that I've taken in the past, it could be things that I find on Google, it might be not even related to their industry. So I will sometimes, if it's an industry I've not worked with before, I might kind of look at what people are generally doing, but I don't want to feel restricted by that. So I don't want people, just because you work in this type of job, to go, oh, well, that's what everyone does, so we'll do the same. So that's too restrictive. But I will have a look to see the sort of thing, and then again I'll sort of see things and I'll feel like, oh, this is right for this person. There's a lot of feeling involved. I guess it's kind of the feeling that what's going to work, and then that mood board I can send to them so that they can see visually, if your photos at the end of the day look a bit like this, then is that kind of what you're hoping for? And I always say to my clients, you're very welcome to come back and say no. But yeah, I've never had anyone that has. They always come back and go, yes, that's because I think I'm good at understanding people's brands and understanding what they want. So yeah, we do get to a point where, yeah, kind of visually, we're kind of thinking along the same lines. And then it's taking it to the shoot and going, right, okay, this is what we have discussed, and then trying to make that a reality through my own camera.
It's very hard, isn't it, as a business owner promoting yourself, to... Sometimes it can be hard to do your own marketing. How did you go about that process? Was there anything in particular that you did to figure out what you were going to do?
Yeah, so I would say I help other people with showing up in their marketing, and sometimes it is very much a case of do as I do, do as I say, not do as I do. Because I know all this stuff and I can help other people do it, and it's probably a case of time really, and the time to kind of take a step back and look at my own business. But my business has naturally evolved over the last sort of 5 years as I've become more and more focused on brand photography. What I was finding was I was helping people. Quite often they'd come to me knowing they needed photos, but their problem was sort of slightly wider than that. It's like, I need photos because I know I need to put myself out there, but I don't necessarily know how to do that. And so as well as creating photos and some video content, we would get to the end of it and then I'd sort of send it through. And then very occasionally, for people who really aren't sort of naturally marketeers, they'd come like a month later and they'd put maybe 2 photos up sort of as an introduction, and I'd sort of go, oh, is everything okay? And they're like, oh, there's just so much there. And I think I was overwhelming people because I can give you like over 100 photos and several videos. And it's almost like, oh, there's a lot here. Where do I start? And so what I was finding I was doing with my clients was almost coaching them to then how do they use that content and helping them understand how marketing works, how to use it, helping them create a strategy and putting themselves out there. And equally, there's almost like the bit that comes before a shoot as well, the feeling more confident showing up and being visible and being happy to be on camera, because some people aren't ready. So I work with people on that as well. So all these things came together and I realised I've been operating under the brand Photography by Abi Moore for years, over a decade. But actually what I was doing was more than just photography. So I've kind of had this feeling, knowing for the last couple of years that I needed to do something about it and change. But it's quite a big decision to kind of rebrand your company and really kind of, although I've been doing this for, a good couple of years, to actually kind of go out there and go, right, this is me and this is what I do now and that. Yeah. So I got the help of other creatives. So it's not just me. So when I wanted to rebrand, I worked with a coach myself around what was I actually offering, and then obviously a designer who could then put that into a visual representation for me, because I kind of knew what I wanted. And so it's about involving the people around you that can help you as well, because even though I am very creative, I think sometimes you're so close to your own business that it's very hard to see the wood for the trees. So by getting others involved, they help you take that step back. And like I say, time is always an issue as well. But they help you take that step back and look at your business and go, right, okay, what does this now look like? And and now right at the end of that process and kind of going live with all my rebrand, and it actually feels amazing, because I feel like, okay, this is what I was here to do. This is how I help people, and it's really nice to finally get that out there, but it is quite scary to make that leap in the first place.
Yeah. So now that you've got these kind of, like I say, these 3 bits, I mean each of them is very interesting in themselves, aren't they? Is there any creativity that goes into helping people want to be seen on camera and on video?
Yeah, there is. So actually my approach has changed quite a bit as well. So like I said, I've been in my business for 15 years, and for about the first 8 years of that, I think it was, I did not show my face at all. And I always said, oh, I'm behind the camera. I don't need to be in photos. I'm behind the camera. And initially my business worked much more with consumers. So, families and weddings. And so I kind of almost felt it didn't matter, although now, and knowing what I know, it did. But once I started working more and more with small businesses, and I was saying to them, you need to put your face out there and we're taking photos for your website, it felt very hypocritical to then be hiding away myself. But also I noticed a change in myself and my business, that once I did have that confidence to put myself out there, that it really was bringing more people into my business, and I saw it working for me, which is why I'm so passionate about helping it work for other people. And I guess one of the main creative things that I have found, I'm a very sort of practical and pragmatic person. up until this year, I wouldn't really have described myself as spiritual. And this practice isn't particularly spiritual, but I think I've been exploring different things this year. And one of the things that I found really powerful for me, and I find powerful for my clients, is around affirmations. And I think sometimes creativity is just a different way of thinking about things, because I think for me, the past, it's always been like practical. These are things you need to do. These are the sort of steps you need to take. And sometimes it's taking a completely different approach. And affirmations have worked for me. And I do a lot of kind of mirror work, so to speak, which I know is a horrible term, but kind of something I encourage my clients to do. So looking in the mirror and actually speaking positive phrases to yourself, because we actually feel quite uncomfortable saying nice things to ourselves. It's ingrained in us that we need to be critical, and we have this harsh critic kind of inside our minds all the time. So that's, for me, has been a sort of a creative diversion, I guess, because it's not something, again, if I'd come to you like 2 years ago, and I don't think I would never have told anyone to do affirmations. I'd have just kind of been, we'll get you on camera, we'll pose you, we'll help you feel comfortable. And, I very much have always been about helping people feel at ease in front of the camera, because I am quite a friendly person. And, on a shoot, it's helping them relax and getting them to feel like they're in the right place. But I think there's more work around mindset that can be done. And that's something I feel has been quite a different approach for me over the last year, and is way I help my clients.
So creativity from the point of view of bringing something different into what you do with a different approach.
Absolutely, yeah. Thinking about things in a completely different way, and taking an approach that you perhaps might not have tried before, and perhaps doesn't feel natural to you.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you have lots of ideas. What sort of ideas do you have?
So I find at the moment, probably my biggest sort of creative inspiration, I guess, where ideas are coming from, is around my own content and how I promote myself online. It can be when I'm out for a walk, I'll suddenly think of something. And this is where I mean, like, creativity has a life of its own. Like, I couldn't tell you where these ideas come from. They just pop into my head, and I'll just suddenly think of something, and I'll just be like, oh, I could do this. And so, yeah, they come at you from all angles. It could be reading a book. It could be visually watching a film. Yeah, it really is almost like it's its own natural sort of beast that kind of just, ideas just come at you.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a few conversations where this has come up, and where I've talked to people about, having ideas in the shower, or when you're in the car, or just whenever your brain when your brain's switched off and isn't thinking about that thing that isn't thinking about either the problem that you've got that you're trying to solve, or it's just not thinking about anything at all. And these ideas just kind of, they appear, don't they? Yeah,
absolutely. It is, because I think, I'm kind of working in this environment all the time, like promoting myself, promoting other people. That is my day-to-day job. But the time I get my most ideas is I try and get out most days. I live near the river and walk down the river, and that's when I get it, when I'm trying to have that switch off time. But actually, it's like my brain's switching off from the actual work, but then it starts like ticking over and going, oh, have you thought about doing this?
So what are the challenges of that, having all of those ideas while you're out for a walk, or just ideas for your business?
I think I have quite a chaotic mind. I have ADHD, which I think is great when it comes to creativity, because I think people with ADHD don't tend to feel as confined by certain boundaries. We can be very creative thinkers. So I think it can be a benefit in some ways, but it is also, my mind is constantly active and constantly, like, there's things everywhere, and it's almost like trying to capture those things. And I think so many thoughts that kind of are flitting through your mind, and trying to pin down the ones that are worth following, and a lot of noise in your head. So, I try and it's also very hard to switch off. I guess that's the other thing, is like out for a walk. What I should be doing is just meditating and just enjoying nature, but it's just not the way my brain works. But then I think I love being creative, and I actually like find that very inspiring when ideas are coming to me, but it's trying to find a way of capturing. I didn't used to do this, so I think I find the notes app thing quite helpful, because it's almost like a way of going, got that idea, it's captured, it's done there, we'll come back to it later, because otherwise it keeps like nagging on your mind, and then so I can almost switch off, like I've gone, right, I've captured that, now we move on and try and appreciate nature again. So that's, I think, probably the challenge is, yes, lots of noise coming at you, and then trying to prioritize it and kind of work out, because you can have a lot of ideas and actually not all of them are worth pursuing. And I think a couple of years ago I used to think I'd have ideas about my business, like, oh, I want to do this and I could do this, and things I could launch. And I read a really useful book called Chill and Prosper by Denise Duffield Thomas, which is all about having a business that doesn't take over your life, basically. So being, profitable with a business, but also like moving away from that hustle culture. And one of the things I love that she said in it, and she also, as the author, has ADHD, so I think she thinks from the same way, is that just because you have a good idea doesn't mean you have to pursue it. And I actually have a book here just on my desk, which is, I think I've put a note on it. It's something like awesome ideas to come back to later, because it can be, you're suddenly like, oh, I'm going to launch a big course, or I'm going to, all these big things I'm going to change. And actually you don't have time for all those things. And actually I used to think, oh, well, I've got this idea, I must act on it. And now I'm like acknowledging that actually it's okay to have these ideas and to say, that is a good idea, but right now I don't have time for it. I will come back to that when I have time. So I have this notebook. That's how those bigger, and this is like bigger things, where it's like big change to business and things that would take a lot of time investment. Where I'm like, okay, I don't have to pursue it now. We'll capture it and come back to it later when there's time, if there's ever time.
Yeah. So that's the essential bit in having that idea and not losing it, just putting it somewhere.
Yes, it needs to be captured. Yeah, I always think of it, kind of like capturing it, putting it somewhere, knowing where it is, being a bit more organised as well, because I used to have ideas everywhere. So, and I'd be putting them here, there, and everywhere on a post-it note. There'd be post-it notes everywhere. So I now have my book for bigger ideas, my notes app for kind of quick and easy things for content, and I know that's where they go, and I can always come back to them, so they're not lost to me if I don't do something with them right now. But kind of keeping a place for them.
Mm. Yeah, I have to say I did over the summer, because for me, with a young child, the summer is very tricky to actually get things done or really sort of really get any momentum on anything. So I actually this last summer, I did something slightly different, and I set up a Trello board so that every time I had an idea for something, whatever, however big or small, I just put it at the bottom of the thing in the Trello board, so that then I can come back to it later. And actually I think most of them I haven't done anything with. I'm not sure, but I know they're there, and every now and then I'll pop back in there and go, oh, actually, no, I've done something about that one. I think it is the trick of capturing them, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's the whole like shiny new thing syndrome. I think actually you worry that if you don't act on it now, and it seems like the most exciting thing right now, but actually once you've captured them and put them down, it's almost like permission to leave it alone, and then you can come back to it. But actually then when I come back to it, like I can't even tell you what's in my awesome ideas notebook. I've forgotten all those amazing ideas were. And then I'll look through it and I'll go, oh yeah, that one, but I'll be like, okay, the time isn't right for that. And I think it's almost that permission to go, we've got it, we've captured it, but it's okay to leave it alone now.
Yeah. So you mentioned that book. Was it only that book, or is it just experience and having been in business a long time that's led to you just accepting that and having your place to put them and having a way of dealing with that?
Yeah, I think it is, probably experience as well. And like you say, I've run my business for quite a while now, and I've spent a lot of time over the last sort of 5 years or so sort of reprioritising my business in some ways. So sort of stripping out the work that doesn't necessarily bring me joy and isn't necessarily profitable for the business, and sort of just being sensible about things. And I think that is definitely experience of being a bit more sensible about the business and going, you don't have to say yes to everything. I think that a lot of it is I in the past might have just said yes to anything that came my way, any job that came my way, any idea that came my way, and then you end up incredibly busy and burning out. So I think that's where experience has taught me just to prioritise and really work on what's important.
Yeah. So obviously some of the people who are listening might be earlier on in their businesses and have lots of ideas and not have that experience, but you're much further down the line and you've got all sorts of things in place. Does that include having support from specific kinds of people to help you with all those ideas and kind of managing those bits behind the scenes?
Absolutely. So I have a good team around me. So I'm self-employed and, it's just me in the business, but I have people that I work with. So I have a virtual assistant that helps me on an ongoing basis with kind of admin tasks and things. But I also, employ people when I need to. So content creators, other brand photographers when I need my own kind of photos and brand content done. I have a coach. So I think surrounding yourself with the right people that can help guide you is really helpful. I think something else that I've found quite useful, and I would always recommend anyone who's starting a business to do, is to, at the beginning, really know, why are you in business? So what are you actually trying to achieve? What does your business stand for? Because then you can start to look at the opportunities that come your way, whether that's, a job offer or ideas that come to you, but you can actually sort of look at those and remember that kind of overarching purpose of your business and ask yourself, right, does this fit? And am I just saying yes because this thing, is there? Or am I saying yes because it's right for my business right now? And I think it can be quite tempting when you're new in business to just say yes to everything that comes your way. Because you don't want to be turning stuff down, but actually really focusing on those things that are sort of true to you and true to what you stand for can really help. So but I think a lot of people don't necessarily do that step. I think they kind of go, I want to do this thing, and just start doing it. And actually that groundwork that says this is what my business is about, so that you have that kind of framework to revisit when you're kind of making decisions about it.
So do you proactively go through that notebook with all your ideas with somebody else, or does it just sit there for when you're looking for inspiration? How does that work?
I would say it does just sit there for when I'm looking for inspiration, but I think there are also ideas that are coming to me that I immediately probably do decide are a priority, because now I have that framework and I know what my business stands for and what I want to be doing in my business. Sometimes an idea will come and I can immediately feel like, is this something that is going to take up a lot of time and isn't necessarily right? And that's when it goes in the notebook. And there'll be others where I'm kind of think, right, okay, this is something I do want to explore a little bit. And that's where working with a coach can really help me, because I will sometimes, we'll have a call and they're actually very good at helping you work out, is it one for the notebook or is it one for now? Or, maybe the next year or so. I think that's where working with someone else can help you work through those thoughts and go, okay, does this actually sort of fit my business? So I'll instinctually kind of know which camp it falls in, but then working with a coach to really help explore that and to be sure that it is the right decision. And then particularly if it is something that is going to take a lot of time investment to build into your business, it's helpful to have another pair of eyes on that and sort of someone to sort of go, are you sure this is right? So
so the benefit of having like a sounding board to talk all that through with.
Because self-employment can be quite lonely, and you are just you making your decisions, and I'm quite a decisive person and I am quite happy making those decisions, but sometimes you do have this nagging voice going, is this the right thing to do? And so I do find that helpful to have someone else to talk it through. I think if you're self-employed, you do need that support network around you. And even my VA, really, who is mostly just helping me out with admin, I will sometimes sort of say to her, if you ever think that I'm doing something for the wrong reason, or I've written something and you think, why has she said that? Like, I very much encourage her to critique me and not just agree and just do the admin. Like, she's part of the team, and we'll kind of sometimes, and she's very good at sort of saying, there is a better way of doing this. Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with your, so you create quite a lot of content then for social media to do your own marketing. Is that something that as somebody who's got a very creative mind with lots of stuff in it, is that something that you find easy to then follow through and do, or is that something you get your VA involved in to help you pull those ideas out and actually stick them on social media?
I tend to do all that myself, and I actually find that I think for me at the moment, that feels almost like my biggest creative outlet, which can sound a bit funny because I do a creative job, but I think when I'm working for someone else, creating photos, video content, helping them with their ideas, for marketing and that kind of thing, I do need to make sure it's working for them, and you are working within, you're working for someone and you're helping them. And I think when I'm creating my own content, it does feel like quite a creative outlet, and I do actually quite enjoy the creativity of making stuff. And I love kind of filming. And I can't believe I'm saying this now, because if you'd said to me like 5 years ago that I would love just, I'll suddenly have an idea and I'm like, I'll stick my camera on a thing or record myself and do this video. It's done. And I never would have done that. But actually now I find that really, I really enjoy it. And I think that's part of bringing the creativity back into my role, because whilst it is essentially a creative job, you can't go wild with everyone's brand. You need to kind of work with what works for them, not necessarily what feels sort of creative.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that actually, interestingly, when you were saying that, because I like writing, and I did a freelance features writing course quite a lot of years ago now. And I remember feeling it's really constraining when someone else is saying, I want you to write, that I'd have a topic to do for one of the assignments. And I think, actually, I don't want to write about that topic. Whereas when I write blogs or I write social media posts like you just write, I mean, yes, you are wanting it to appeal to an audience, but equally it's coming from you. And if you're a service-based business, it's about you doing that thing for your clients. And so I feel like there's a bit more, there is a bit more creativity, isn't it, in creating your own content. And yes. I must say, I sometimes veer too much towards that, and not, it can be tempting to spend a lot of time doing that, can't it, if you enjoy it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what I find sort of tricky about having a creative role, is because you could have all these ideas and go a certain way, but if a company says to me, they come to me and they want to, I use this example because it's probably one of the least creative jobs I do, but if I work with a business that needs headshots for a team of 25 people, and some companies do want something quite creative, and they do, like, it's quite nice working on that, but if they come to me and just say, we want a standard black and white headshot of everyone facing the same way, lit traditionally, kind of good lighting but nothing particularly creative, I can't particularly turn around to them and go, well, let's make it wacky, or let's light it really differently like this. I have to deliver what they want. Yeah. I think with my own business, there isn't necessarily anyone there saying, but you have to do it this way. So that's where you have that freedom, I guess, to be a bit more creative and make mistakes as well, because I think I don't want to make mistakes for my clients. So I am probably advising them on stuff that I know is going to work and is kind of safe, whereas with myself I'm like, actually, well, let's just try this, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Yeah,
you're like a creative experiment, but on your own stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So when I talk about creativity, there are two things I talk about. So I talk about creative thinking and about creative expression, which I think we've covered both of. It spans across all the different bits of your business. Do you find you've got any room left for being creative elsewhere outside of your business?
Not really, and that's something I feel like I need to bring back into my life a bit. I don't take a huge amount of photos. I mean, I do like snapshots, memories for the family, but I don't take anything, I guess, more artistic for my own personal joy, I guess. A little bit, you know, if I'm down by the sea, I love the sea and I will kind of take photos and things, but it's something that's definitely lacking from my life, because photography used to be a hobby and then it became my job, and now when you're not working you kind of want to switch off, and so it almost feels, as soon as I pick up a camera, there's like a sort of instinct that, oh, this is work, and so it's then hard to make that sort of creatively interesting and feel joyful. I think what I need to do is find other creative outlets. So like I said, I am a very creative person, so I did art A-level, and I say I love to draw. I haven't drawn in ages, but I probably should draw more. You know, I have sketchbooks in the office and, you know, colour pencils and all sorts, so I have the materials. It's just finding the time to do it. And the same, I'm very musical, so I used to play piano and flute, and I got my flute from my parents about 10 years ago with the sort of view to starting it up again and doing that as something a bit creative and a bit, you know, for me. I've never done it. But I think the thing is, you kind of work and then your weekends come, and the weekends is spent looking after the family, doing things for the family, looking after the home, and then whatever time you don't have, I kind of just want to chill and veg on the sofa. So I need to make more time, I think, for personal creative projects that I would enjoy.
Well, there's a couple of my guests on this podcast that I can mention that might give you a bit of inspiration there. Kelly's episode, which is the first episode of this series, she talks about a creative power hour. So that's quite a good one to listen to. And then Sophie is a crafting mentor, so she's more about practical craft. So have a listen to that one, and that might give you a few bits of inspiration as well.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds amazing, because I do need to get back into life. And it's actually, even if you say it like 20 minutes a day, like we can find that. I think that's the problem with the mobile phone age, isn't it? That you kind of sit down and it's very easy to spend 20 minutes just scrolling on your phone, and that's wasted and gone. And actually it would be so much better to go, right, I'm actually going to spend 20 minutes drawing or learning the flute again. And where you could be at the end of this year if I started that now. So I shall try that.
Well, and next time I see you, perhaps you might have had a chance to do something about that.
Check in with me, make sure I do. That's accountability, someone holding you to it.
You don't want to say those things to me, because that's what I do. I put notes in my diary and I remind people of stuff. So yeah, but it's good. It's just a nice little thing to do if you've just got a small amount of time, isn't it?
No, it's a really good idea. Yeah, I should because I think I say we, but I know I personally lose too much time to my phone, and one of my goals has been for the rest of this year is that I need to get my screen time down and spend less time scrolling on useless stuff. And yeah, if I said actually 20 minutes is very easy to find in a day, I could do that, and there's a lot I could do with it. So yeah, maybe I'll get those sketchbooks out.
Excellent. Well, we're coming to the end of our conversation. If people want to find out more about what you do, where can they find you online?
So my website is abimore.co.uk, and I'm on Instagram is probably my most active place that you'll find me on social media, and I'm at Abi Moore UK on there. And I also have a free guide, so if anyone heard me saying and you saying about how hard it is to put your face out there and kind of show up for your business, then I have a free guide all about how to be more visible and really show your face and become the face of your brand. So there's links to that on my social media and on my website. But it's a good place for people to start if the thought of putting your face out there fills them with horror currently.
Great. Well, it sounds, I'm sure there will be lots of people who would be interested to read about that. So, well, thank you very much for joining me today. And have you got any last words before we say goodbye?
No, just thank you so much for the opportunity. And it's been very useful actually to think about my own creativity and how it comes into play both in work but also for your own personal joy. And I do need to pursue that.
Great. Well, look forward to seeing how you get on.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nina.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Creative Conversations. I'm Nina Lenton. I'd love to know your thoughts on today's topic. You can contact me via my website at ninalenton.co.uk.